Hey guys. Oh my goodness, my music is on. How did that happen? I didn't know I could have a video and music at the same time. Hey Heather. Come for a little walk in the hood. Hey Andy. Morning. So I just want to do a quickie video. A bunch of us were chatting in a WhatsApp thread that I'm part of, and just about what's going on in the world right now and how, we're looking at nothing is the same. Nothing is as it was. There's no going back to what was. And that becomes clearer and clearer every day. And I would say we're really in a time of to me, a very exciting revolution, because it's everything that hasn't been working in the world is just making itself known. And people are actually starting to really speak up and wake up, and what would it take for way, way, way more of that even to occur. And I wanted to share one of probably the greatest tool for change that I have found in my life so far. And how does it get better? It's a tool that pretty much everybody who has been introduced in some way to access consciousness has been exposed to, and it's called Interesting Point of View. And it's one of those tools that, we talk about a lot, and, people are like, oh yes, interesting point of view, But it actually, I have been using it in a really different way recently, and really blown away by what it's creating for me. And this is a tool I've been using for, 10 years or so. I'm really committed to using it every day a few years ago, and I just keep seeing it just keeps going and going and going, and keeps changing my life and changing the world around me. And one of the things that I want to talk a little bit about the tool, but one of the things that I just want to say is that, and I did a video kind of on this the other day, but we, for thousands of years, people have been fighting. And for thousands of years, people have been, hey, Eileen, nice to have you. Nice to have all of you on this little walkie with me in my Seattle neighborhood. But for thousands of years, people have been fighting, and for thousands of years, people have been debating, and for thousands of years, people have been looking to see, basically kind of who gets to, who's right and who's wrong. Basically, we've been functioning from right and wrong. And there's always somebody there's lots of people on both sides of the fence of right and wrong with every issue, every situation the world is confronted with. Everything that we have going on in the world, there's a point of view about right or wrong. And that applies literally to everything. And you might think, well, what's right is obvious and what's wrong is obvious, but that is actually the thing that really sticks us, because, like you could look at the mask situation or the rioting situation, and, there's a lot of people standing on one side saying this is right, and a lot of people standing on the other side saying, no, this is right. And I've actually been, I've received a lot of judgment for not wearing masks in public. I have a lot of information. I've done a lot of research, and I have my own awareness of what's required with that, and I'm not going to get into that here. I don't really... Talking about it on social media is an interesting thing, because what happens is people immediately get polarized. And the thing is that what if nobody's right and nobody's wrong? What if as soon as we go to polarization, we actually completely diminish what we can create as a world together. And, you know, like when I started this video, I got an extremely dirty look from somebody walking who was about 10 feet away from me, giving me a look because I wasn't wearing a mask. And it's like, to me, I just go, wow, you know, that person isn't wrong for doing that, nor are they wrong for wearing a mask. And really, what else is possible that would allow us to actually stop hating each other and stop being like, I got this email this weekend from the Best, I think it's called Best Self magazine or something, basically saying, you know, are we getting meaner? Was the subject line. You know, it's like, I would say, yeah, we are definitely getting meaner. I'm not, but I see a lot of the world getting meaner. And nor is that wrong. But I would actually really like to see a different reality. And so what if there was what if we actually could really go beyond right and wrong? And what if we could, I'm crossing the street, making a video. And what if we actually really functioned from a different place? And so what does this tool, interesting point of view, have to do with all of this? Well, everything, if you look at everything basically being an interesting point of view, it gives you more space. It's a tool that is designed to create more space. And hey, Katerina, it's a very dynamic tool. And one of the ways, like I read this thing recently from the Access Consciousness reference materials that was really cool. I hadn't seen it before, and it was about, because the thing about interesting point of view is it's a practice in a way. It's an energetic space that we cultivate. It's a practice that we can use basically to create more space in our world, to create less polarization, to get out of right and wrong, and to get out of the very thing that sticks us when we are interacting with other people and even with ourselves. We can use it with ourselves really dynamically. Now I'm encountering the diggers, road diggers. Let me just scoot past these guys really quick. They're laying a driveway, I think. So basically how it works is anytime somebody else has a point of view about anything, or anytime that you have a point of view about anything, you say to yourself inside voice, inside your head, interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Or interesting point of view, they have this point of view. Now here's the catch to this tool, and I always say this, that there is no tool no tool period. The tools that I use are from Access Consciousness, but there is no tool that works without your choice behind it. So you actually have to choose to have more space. Hey Lale, hey Jenny. You actually have to choose to have more space, and you also have to be willing to let go of your point of view when you use it, because it doesn't work if you're attached to the rightness of you and the wrongness of somebody else. It doesn't work, because you'll be committed to that above and beyond the space that this tool can actually create in your world. So, and one of the things that I was reading was this beautiful excerpt that was about actually like walking into any polarized situation, walking into any heated debate, walking into anybody that's resisting and reacting to you. Now we have a trash truck. But just walking into it and walking into it and walking into it and walking into it. And as you do, if you lower your barriers and you're willing to actually get vulnerable and you're actually willing to let go of your point of view, now that can be a big one. And I'm going to just pause there for a moment because, you know, if we look at the Black Lives Matter thing, it's like, so that is and is not a point of view. I mean, basically it's like there's an awareness underneath it of, hey, like to me, what the awareness underneath it is, hey, this is about oneness. Like this is about living in a world where we realize, guys, we're on this fucking beautiful, unique, phenomenal planet, spinning its way through space. There's no other planet like it as far as we can see. You know, there may be in other, you know, corners of the universe, but as far as we can see, there is no other planet like this one. We're here together. And it's time to make this shit fucking work. You know, it's time to actually live together in a way that actually works. And this is where it comes back to, you know, the fight is like, if fighting and polarizing and trying to get somebody to agree with you in order to solve a problem, if that was going to work, it would have by now. It's been thousands of years, you know, it would have by now. It's not going to, you know, it's an idea that was never a good idea, you know. We've tried it, we've tested it, we have beat it into the ground as a reality. And what's occurring right now is, like, to me, very good news, because we're seeing how this is not going anywhere, guys, you know. And so, but there's a difference between your point of view and your awareness. Now, awareness has space to it, it has ease to it, it also has allowance. Interesting point of view is a very dynamic tool for allowance. So it has allowance to it, where you switch arms. Didn't think I was doing a Facebook Live on my walk today. But when you have allowance for something, here's the key. When you have allowance for something, it can actually change in miraculous ways. Miraculous ways. Like ways that we would never expect, because what happens is you take the step in to remove the polarity and you step out of the polarity. And so, do Black Lives Matter? Fuck yes, they do. Every life matters. Now, if I go into resistance and reaction and fight the forces of evil that are perpetrating and perpetuating that reality on planet Earth, what's that going to do? Guess what happens? You lock it in. And here's the thing. This is how this works, okay? When you resist and react to anything, when you have a resistance to something or a reaction to it, which is what a lot of what's going on right now, it actually comes from a place of actually aligning and agreeing with whatever it is that you're resisting. So if you're in resistance to the racism or the oppression or the control, all of that stuff, that I agree is, like, I would like to see a very different world that does not have that anywhere, you know. But if you're in resistance to it, you actually have to buy that it is you have to buy that it's a problem in the first place. Now, is it? A lot of people would say, well, it is, you know. But let me walk you through this, because you have to align and agree with the people that are actually perpetrating that to begin with. And those people and those energies are, like, they actually have an interesting point of view. And so, because they have an interesting point of view, and it's so it's one of the most, I mean, this is like one of the most challenging things to actually address something with that much hatred and rage and anger and oppression and all of that, like to confront or address something like that with the space that interesting point of view actually can create. Bye, Janet. Thank you. Um, but the thing is that if you are willing to, you have a much greater chance of actually dissipating that energy and changing it. And it doesn't mean, just go complacent or whatever, but you become a different space. So when you resist and react to something and you're like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, you basically push against the very thing that in its very existence actually depends upon the pushback. And as you push back against it, you are buying it as real. And as you buy it as real, guess what? It becomes more real. So now all of a sudden the whole world is, pushing against, like there's this, let's see if I can, it's like, here's this position and here's this position, and they're pushing against each other. And that, the very act of that makes both sides of the fence real. But if you actually become this space, this energy has nowhere to go. It's kind of like the martial art Aikido, which is an absolutely beautiful martial art. That martial art is actually all about this. It's actually about like no force. And actually, when your opponent is actually coming at you, what you do is you actually join with their energy and you redirect. So you join with their energy and you redirect it, and you basically use your energy with their energy. You get out of resistance to it. You use your energy to sort of exponentialize their energy, redirect it, and create a different resolution. And it's this incredible, beautiful art form. And it's a very Aikido conversation. And so what occurs then is you actually, by getting out of resistance and reaction to something, you get into a different space. You no longer make it real, and you actually, you become basically the dominant energy that can dissipate whatever it is that you're playing with. So this is like the energetics of how all of this works. And so how does interesting point of view work? Well, I mean, this, like this, and this thing I was talking about is it talks about actually like walking into something basically with no barriers. So putting your barriers down, getting out of the wrongness of whatever it is. And it's like, does racism and oppression and control and police brutality and any brutality fucking suck? Yeah. Would I like it to be not existing on the planet? Yes. Now, what I know about change is that change occurs when you have more space. Change occurs when you have less reaction. Change really can't occur when you have reaction. Change can occur when you have more space, more allowance, and more awareness, because all of a sudden now you have lots of different new awareness about other things that you could be and do and create to actually change it. And the magic of it is that when you are space, allowance, and awareness present with somebody or something, then you actually change the energy of that situation in the way that I just described. So this beautiful reading is like, so one of the things I've been practicing and just playing with this in every day as well as with the big stuff, but you may want to start with smaller things that have less of a charge, but just literally walking in, like energetically walking into something, and walking into something again and walking it and just going, okay, I'm going to be totally present. I'm going to have no barriers. I'm going to be total space, and I'm going to actually walk into this energy, not buying it as real and true. And I'm actually going to say to myself, interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Interesting point of view. They have this point of view. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view about their point of view. Interesting point of view. Interesting point of view. Interesting point of view. And now all of a sudden, there's a lot more space. There's more space in your world. There's more space in the world. There's a relaxation that occurs if you're willing to have that, if you're willing to create that. And now all of a sudden there's more possibilities. And there's more communion. And there's a greater sense of, okay. And I've been playing this with like people in my life and just little, like I said, little things like, like somebody says something that irritates me, and I literally just go, okay, I'm going to walk into it. I'm going to lower my barriers. I'm going to walk into that and go, interesting point of view. I have this point of view. And what I've been seeing that has been fucking miraculous is that energy, when I do that, the energy of that person completely changes. It completely changes on a dime. There's no conversation required. There's no fight required. I don't need to be right. I don't need them to be wrong. They don't have to defend their point of view. I walk in, I lower my barriers, I use the tool, interesting point of view, and the whole situation changes. I spent the day yesterday doing this, like really turning it up. And again, this is a tool I've used for a long time. And it's like it's the tool that I use the most, and I use it many, 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 many times every day, and more and more and more all the time. And yesterday was just this like miracle after miracle after miracle in my interactions and in all of these different, spaces that I was playing with, and like it was just like, wow, cool, that changed, that changed, that changed. And there's something about, and so in a way, it's like a willingness to be, you have to be willing to be different. Because a lot of what happens is we go into this big alignment and agreement, resistance and reaction to what's going on in the world, because it defines us, and it defines you in the world and in the context of things as a good person. If you join the, Black Lives Matter movement, you are, according to a lot of people, a good person. Now, I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying, what if you were part of that movement from this space that I'm talking about, where you're like, hey, guess what? This is all a lie that people are making up. And you can be fiery about it, and you can be pissed off about it, and you can be, you can be like, I want to fucking change this now. And yes, let's fucking change this now. And if you add this tool to your arsenal, you add this tool and the willingness to acknowledge that actually everything is an interesting point of view, and it only has power if you give it power. If we give it power, it only has power if we give it power. And we give it power by resisting and reacting and aligning and agreeing with it. What would it be like if, I look at like the protests and stuff right now, and I'm like, gosh, what would it be like if the whole world, of course, I, might be a little Pollyanna-ish with this, but hey, I'm sticking with it. If everybody was willing to use this tool and be this, and that, to me, this is a world that I'm actually desiring to create, because there's never going to be The world of everybody agreeing is never going to be a thing. Never going to be a thing. We're never going to all agree. I don't actually want to live in a world where we all agree. That would be really fucking boring. And do I desire for hatred and racism and oppression to go away? Fuck yes, I do. But it's not going to be from fighting that it changes. It's going to be from us choosing a different world and a different reality and a different space that is about having the allowance and the awareness that is required to go, you know what, this just doesn't even like stand a chance. And the only way that we can create that is if we each choose it, you know. And you may feel like, I mean, for me, I'm like, okay, me, little old me, you know. I actually do acknowledge that I'm not a little old me. I'm very powerful. But, you know, it's like me, one of 8 billion people or whatever. You know, what change am I going to make? Well, I'm like, I don't know, but I'm like, you know, this is why I've been doing what I've been doing for so long, because I really desire to see a different world and to live in a different world. And I do live in a different world than most people do, largely because I use the tools that I use and I choose what I choose and I don't buy it as real. And would I like to see that for other people as well? Hell yes, I would, you know, which is why I do so many classes and Facebook Lives and I'm always out there, you know. And that may not be how you do it, you know. It's not like we all have to get on Facebook Live and teach classes, you know. But it's this sense of like each one of us choosing what it is that we know and the space that we be actually is truly what can create something different in the world. And every single one of us has a different awareness of what that can be. There's such a beauty in the diversity and the difference that we be. And I really desire to live in a world where we celebrate difference and we can contribute to each other and contribute to each other's awareness and contribute to a greater world. That I think, like for me, it's like if we use these energetic tools, like we can create it so much faster than we think. And I dare say that we are. And what would it take for it to occur even faster and more dynamically? I mean, I see the intensity of control that's going on in the world, both through this you know, racism conversation, the rioting stuff, the police brutality, governmental control. I mean, a lot of stuff that I see going on with the coronavirus stuff. To me, there's a real like upsurge of intensity of control right now, and but the thing is that if I fight it, I feed it. If I fight it, I feed it. If you fight it, you feed it. Be something different and watch the world miraculously change. And you will have more space and more ease and more creativity and more receiving and more ease and more joy and more space and more power and way, way, way more power. When you are willing to be interesting point of view, you are one of the most powerful people on the planet because you can no longer actually be controlled. And that's ultimately what a lot of this comes down to is, you know, well, it's way more than that, but one piece of it is that when you don't have a point of view and you can't be controlled by judgment, you are uncontrollable. It doesn't matter how much control is going on in the world. If you don't react to judgment in any way, you are uncontrollable. If you're willing to have your awareness and know what you know and function from that and live your life from that, you are uncontrollable. And you can be behind bars and you can be, you know, whatever, but you're still ultimately uncontrollable. And that's what the world does not want us to be. And that's what this tool gives us access to. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Interesting point of view, you have this point of view. Interesting point of view, they have this point of view. What would it take to live in a world of oneness, of communion, where we celebrate differences and we recognize that judgment is not real? Fear is not real. Judgment is not real. We are infinite beings, and we can create whatever we desire to create here on this planet at this time. It is up to us to choose it. Thank you so much for being here, for being you, and I invite you to use this tool more than you ever have. Walk into anything that you want to resist, anything that you want to fight. Walk into it. Lower your barriers. Interesting point of view. And just try it. See what changes.